time for another episode of the Inside Voice podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I was scrolling through social media this week for my job, of course, because we talked last week about taking a social media break, which I did do on Sunday. It went so well. I feel like I got to detox a little bit. It's done wonders for me. We'll dive into how much I think like rest days and Sabbath days and social media breaks are benefiting me in a couple of weeks when we finish out our spring series. But one of the things that I saw that I thought was pretty genius, United Airlines is turning economy seats into beds. Did you see this? Like the 3 seats that you buy, like the floor comes up and like you can, or like the foot, the part that your legs are sitting against, like that folds up and you can lay down, and like in your ticket package is like a pillow and a blanket. Do you realize how genius that is? I love to sleep on planes. I don't always sleep best like sitting up, so being able to lay flat, game changer. So super exciting stuff happening in the world of travel. We'll consider that our good news for the day. The other good news I want to share with you, since we're trying to start the Inside Voice podcast with something positive, I defeated a snake. It's so funny to me that we are in this spring series, and like episode 1, we talked about getting rid of the critters and the weeds and the bad stuff in your garden. Like if you look at your life as a garden and you're cultivating something wonderful and beautiful, like getting rid of the stuff that you don't want is paramount. And usually it's like the first thing you do in spring when you're getting ready to, put everything together and make a nice little garden for yourself, or like go through the flower beds or whatever for spring. And critters was a part of that. And believe it or not, there was a snake not in the flower bed. So apparently what I did in the flower beds was perfect because it kept the snake out of there. But this giant snake was on the back porch to kick off the spring season. We love that, don't we? And when I say giant, it was like 3 feet long. Like it was probably one of the bigger snakes that we've seen here. It's not the first one. Sad to say. I wish it was the first and only, and we would never, ever have to see one again. But in the time that we've lived in this house, we've seen a handful, maybe like 5 or 6. Not super thrilled about that. So not a poisonous one, so thankful for that, and definitely not an aggressive one either. But in my humble opinion, despite all the people on social media, including my brother, telling me that this is one of the good snakes, don't get rid of it, it'll take care of other pests and other poisonous snakes, I'm under the school of thought that no snake is a good snake. Just putting it out there. And, this actually happened on one of my days of rest. And so not only was I off of social media, but I was also doing no television. I was on my phone texting some people, and I called my dad and stuff, but I didn't do any television. And it's so wild to me that not only did I have the snake on my porch, but, we kind of live like in the country, and we live, in the back of the neighborhood. So it's no wonder that there's like a snake that ended up on our porch, because there's a field behind our house. But there's a hawk that hangs around back there. Now, if you've been with me for a while, you know that my mom passed away in 2021. And one of the ways that I think that she visits me is as a hawk. And there's a story behind that. We'll get into that in another episode. But the hawk was out. And I've seen hawks in the back before hunting, looking for, rabbits and stuff like that. They hunt snakes as well. And I kid you not, after the hour and a half it took me to get this snake off the porch, because I'm not touching it, right? It slithers back towards the field. And I kid you not, this hawk within less than 30 minutes was like swooping down in the backyard. So she was definitely hunting that snake. And like there's a whole metaphor you could paint there of like, this snake trying to attack me, and my mom coming in the form of a hawk to be mama bear. Like it was just wild. But I remember I was on the phone with my dad while it was happening. I was like, Dad, I'm not on I'm not watching TV today. And like God is giving me National Geographic in my own backyard. It was bananas. But just such a reminder that things happen, things pop up, and things are going to come at you. And You got to be prepared and you've got to be brave. This was not something that I wanted to deal with at all. I coaxed this thing and encouraged this thing to go away and never come back. And I even think I rebuked it in the name of Jesus. So back to our spring series. Episode 1 was about getting rid of the dead stuff, the weeds, the critters, the predators, that kind of stuff. By the way, Snake Away works really well. I was able to create like a little solution of that stuff and like spray it towards the snake, and the snake left. Like, it started moving away. So it didn't go as far as I needed it to, but it at least got away from the house. And when I say get away as far as I needed it to, I need it dead, buried, gone, and never, ever, ever going to have a chance to return. Episode 2 of our Cultivated Life, our spring series that we are doing, was all about pruning back even the good things to create better growth. So I cut back like in my actual flower bed, like the bushes and a couple of these small trees that we have. And I'm telling you, the way that they are growing back right now is absolutely beautiful. The bushes are actually becoming a little more full, and they're like a richer green color because they're not overgrown. So all the branches are getting all the sunlight that they need, all the nutrients that they need. I mean, it really is incredible that even though like you want the leaves and you want the branches and sometimes you want the blooms, cutting back, it sets it up for even greater growth. So we talked about the good things in your life that sometimes in excess can be too much. And sometimes cutting those things back will allow for greater growth in other areas or even in those same areas. So you can catch up and binge if you'd like to. But I want to talk today about planting. And I specifically want to start with this growing season. I'm a fall girly through and through, but spring, like the very first part of spring, I absolutely love, because you will see things that look completely dead. Like they are dark, they're brown, they're gray, they're black in some senses if they're not completely dead, they're dormant. And then you start to see these beautiful colors emerge. I look at the trees and like the leaves are starting to pop up again. We have this gorgeous willow in our our backyard, and just seeing that come to life again with green on it is just so beautiful. And I'm seeing flowers that I planted in the fall that are perennials that are supposed to come back each year. Like those have come through the ground, and like I know they're going to bloom and blossom. And I have this one lily that honestly I thought was gone. Like I thought it was burned to a crisp in the summertime, and if not, frozen to its death in winter, and it's coming through the ground again. And it's just so beautiful to see that. And it's such a metaphor for life, that you might think that something is gone. You might think that something is over. You might think that something is worth giving up on, when really it's just waiting for the right environment, the right treatment, the right dedication to it, the right sunlight, the right nutrients to come into it for it to blossom once again. So if you've got things in your life, maybe it's resolutions that you started at the beginning of the year and you thought, I'm going to nail these this year. But somewhere along the way, like maybe end of January, maybe beginning of February, you fell off the wagon. Like you weren't as consistent, you weren't as dialed in, you kind of you just lost your way. And you thought, you know what, I don't know, maybe this isn't worth it. Maybe this is too hard. Maybe 2027 is my year for that. But now that spring is here and the sun is shining and the temperatures are getting warmer and you're feeling more alive because it's not winter anymore, the thoughts of those resolutions are coming back, and you're thinking, yeah, I want to revisit those things. Revisit them, please. We've done a series before, and I can jump back into this if we want in the spring season. But we've talked before multiple times about how the spring is probably a better time for you to do resolutions than January. January's cold, it's dark, the days are short. Like you're coming off the holidays. It's really not. You're not set up for success in January. But springtime, like we talked about with the environment and what's around you and just this new life feel that everybody is like catching on to right now, like absolutely, this would be a great time for you to set those resolutions. So revisit those things and maybe plant some new seeds, maybe put down some fertilizer, maybe do something with those resolutions to jumpstart them again or give them an opportunity to grow and get stronger again. That's one of the things that I've been trying to do with the flower beds is, getting rid of the dead stuff and pruning back a lot of the stuff that is overgrown. But also, like, as I see those flowers start to pop through, I'm like, ooh, I need to give them extra strength. And so I've been watering them more, making sure that their roots can really push through the soil. I treated them with a little fertilizer just to give them a little pep in their step, make sure that they've got what they need to grow into these beautiful flowers. And I am so anxious and I'm so excited to see what those end up being. But yeah, let this season, let this time be a reminder for you to dive back in, to get back on track with things, to dial in once again when it comes to any of the goals that you've set for yourself in 2027 or 2026. This is not something to push off to 2027. It's not something to give up on just because we're 3 months into the year, getting ready to kick off month number 4. We're with March ending, a quarter of the year is gone, and that's not meant to like freak you out. I think if anything, it's meant to, let you know, like, yeah, the year is passing, but there's still a lot of time for you. And there's nothing wrong with you saying, you know what, the first quarter's done, but second quarter, we are going to nail it. So as you're looking at your life and you're looking to cultivate the wonderful things in your life, I want you to, take note of the things that you've already tended to. Like I talked about the flowers that I planted in the fall. I didn't plant anything else because I wanted to see what was going to happen with those things. I put in work, I put in time, I put in effort. I planted seeds in a season of my life, and I wanted to see if those seeds are going to grow into what I hope that they can be. There are things, good things that you did within the last 6 months. There are good things that you've done within the last year or the last decade of your life that are going to produce beautiful things in this season. That's one thing that we learn in life is that you're always planting something. You know what I mean? Like you're always moving towards your goals or moving away from your goals. You're always investing in your goals or not investing in your goals. So it's your choice what you want to do. If you've set goals for yourself, like make sure that you're tending to them, make sure that you're planting those seeds, make sure you're also giving space for those things to blossom into what they're supposed to be. I also would encourage you to beware of the seeds that you're planting right now in this season and think about what kind of flowers or lack thereof could come in the future. So if you've got things in your life that maybe you've let fall to the wayside, it could be your health, it could be your relationships, it could be your business. If you feel like you have kind of started to slip in some areas, now would be a great time for you to plant new seeds. So that way in another season, you can reap the benefits of what you're planting right now. Again, we're always planting something. That's not meant to make you freak out and be like, oh my gosh, everything I do is going to make a huge difference. Like we're talking gradual stuff here. We're talking daily habits. It might be a good time with this spring season and with this new quarter that we're about to start with April being here. It might be a really good time for you to analyze the habits. Where have you kind of slipped into old ways? Where have you kind of miss the mark a little bit and start planting some new seeds? And again, set up the environment so those seeds can flourish. And that will look like, making sure your schedule is in alignment with what you're trying to accomplish. That may be limiting distractions. The episode that we deviated to last week was all about getting off of social media, taking a social media break. But I think more than that, it was like, what distraction did I have in my life? What was I putting way too much time and effort into that really wasn't benefiting me? What was drawing me away from the stuff that was actually really important? And for me, like social media is one of those things that I know if I want to be creative on it, I have to step away from it for a little bit. I work in a creative job. I have a creative podcast. I have I'm writing a book. Like I do a lot of creative stuff. And so it meant a lot to me to step back and be like, okay, I need to eliminate this distraction, or at least not make it such a priority in my day, because it had become a priority. So again, making sure that the environment, the soil, if you will, is primed for the seeds that you're planting is so incredibly important. So I'm actually curious to know what kind of stuff that you want to start planting. What are some things that you are dreaming about? Like if we are going to treat this new season as like our new year, and we're going to set goals and we're going to get out there and chase them, like what do you want to get out there and chase? Like what do you want to cultivate in your life? I mean, this is an opportunity for us to reevaluate and readjust and dream again. Our dream series and dreaming big, like we can do that anytime we want. I know we did that series earlier this year, but man, that's something that you can do all the time. You can always go back and, dreamscape for your life and brainstorm for your life. And then we had talked about narrowing those down into 3 categories and picking one from each category. Maybe you need to go back and revisit that episode. But ultimately just getting excited again about what could be. I always joke that like this is that time of year where I can go crazy at the nursery, like Lowe's or Home Depot or some of our local nurseries in town. Like I can go crazy just buying a bunch of stuff that I want to plant. And that's the brainstorming, right? That's the dreaming big. But then you got to get serious. So as you are planting wonderful things in this planting season, I want to encourage you to get smart about what works. I want you to get smart about what makes sense, what is actually going to flourish in your life. Because sometimes I think we dream so big, and you might get there one time and that's wonderful. But we also have to think about like what actually works. Not everything, as I've learned in the years that we've lived in this house and the years that I've planted and pulled up dead stuff and planted and pulled up dead stuff because it didn't work. Not everything grows in the area. I think it's like it's hardness or hardiness. Different zones throughout the country, obviously different soil, different weather conditions, different heat in the summertime, that kind of stuff. All of that can affect what actually grows and flourishes in your area, in your specific garden. And then you get into specifics of like, there are certain things that need a certain amount of sun, and too much sun can be detrimental. And some things grow better in shade, and some things like partial shade. Understanding what works is going to help you be more successful when you're cultivating this life that you love, when you're dreaming big, when you're setting goals for yourself again. We've talked about this before with my fitness journey that I started now 6 years ago. I had to figure out when in the day was going to be best for me to work out, what kind of workouts I was actually going to stick to, and how I could support those workouts with proper sleep, proper nutrition, and proper hydration as well, and how I was going to measure the progress that I was making. You're going to have to do the same thing. As you're looking forward to planting these wonderful seeds or putting these flowers into your garden, you're going to have to figure out, where's the best place for this? When's the best time for it? Like how much sun is it getting? Is it getting too much wind? Is it being overshadowed by another tree? Is it losing nutrients to other plants around it? Or is it losing water? Some plants like soak up water like nobody's business. You have to figure out what is actually going to fit. So whatever goal you've got for yourself, if it's starting a business, if it's getting out and making new friends, if it is starting the blog, if it is changing your job, like you've got to really sit down and figure out, how is this best going to work? And is it going to work? But be realistic, realistic in both ways, realistic in what's going to work, but also realistic where you're just, it's almost like sometimes we can become really negative. So be realistic about how negative you're being about the things that you're trying to grow as well. You know what I mean? Like I can do that. I can say, well, it's never going to work because nothing ever works. And then that's not actually the case. Things haven't worked out in the past for various reasons. Maybe it wasn't in God's will and it wasn't God's plan. Maybe it was that you didn't put the effort forward that you needed to. Maybe it was because you tried to do too much too soon. Like there are so many things that can factor in to growing these dreams that you have for yourself. So keep that in mind as you are in this planting season, as you are putting things into your life, as you are bringing things in, and don't be afraid to pivot. There's been times when I have planted stuff in the garden and then it didn't work there, so I moved it. I either dug up the root ball and took it somewhere else, or I'm learning how to propagate. This is a big word that I used the other day, and my husband's like, well, what does that mean? I think I know what it means. It's where you cut like a part of a very flourishing plant, like where it's kind of growing, and then you like put it in water or you put it in soil, but you try to like take a piece of it off, put it somewhere else, that way it can grow. So you can have wonderful goals that you've set for yourself, but maybe they don't work at this time of day. Maybe they don't work at that gym that you're trying to go to. Maybe they don't work with that business partner that you've been working with for a while. Move it around. Try it in another place. Try going somewhere else. I told you that writing this book, I tried to write at home and it was just not working. So I changed the environment and I go to the library, and it's been a game changer. Okay. So take note of the things that you're planting, how you're planting them, and then don't be afraid to make changes along the way if you need to. That's the beautiful part of like the growing season, is like you have this wonderful time, which is spring, where the mornings are cool and the afternoons are warm, where everything is primed for growth. Everything is primed to flourish. And so I want you to look at your life like that. I want you to take stock of your life right now and look at this season that you're in and see possibilities and see what could be, and see, not necessarily where you've been, but like where you're going. Like I want you to really think about the beautiful things that you can bring in your life. Gosh, this is just turning into like the Dream Big series again, and I absolutely love it. Like I said in that series back in the day, like you can do that anytime you want. You can dream big for yourself anytime you want. But you've got to apply yourself. You got to put seeds in the ground. You got to tend to them. You've got to keep an eye on them. You got to keep watering them. And you got to pay attention to what's working for them and what's not working for them. Next week, I want to talk more about consistency and checking in and walking the garden, because that's where I have failed. And I think that's where a lot of people fail in life. You set the goal for yourself and like you go at it really strong, you plant your seeds, but then you kind of just like expect it to happen on its own. And there's still a lot of work to be done. And there's still a lot of, things that you can be doing every single day to make sure that those dreams are growing. When it comes to my flower bed and the things that I plant out there, man, that was my failure before, is I thought, well, if I can't devote an entire Saturday to it, I can't do anything with it. But really it just takes like 15 minutes after dinner, just walking through, pulling a couple weeds, trimming a couple things back, making sure things have water. It doesn't take long. It doesn't take a lot of effort. It just takes effort. You know what I mean? So this week, think about the seeds that you want to plant. Think about the seeds that you've already planted in other seasons and how you can best help those seeds grow better. What I mean by that is like, I planted seeds 6 years ago when I started this health and fitness journey. And there's been ebbs and flows. I've been good in some seasons, bad in some seasons. But I'm checking back in and I'm making sure like the seeds that I planted back in 2020 are still holding true, of like the dedication of getting out there and lifting the heavy weights, and the dedication of eating well, and dedication of sleep and all that jazz. You know what I mean? Like you can go back and kind of like prop up and add some support to the dreams that you've already put into action, the ones that you've already planted in the ground. But never be afraid to go to the next level, to dream even bigger, to see what else and what, think about what could be. Like that's exciting. And I would also encourage you to look around you and see the new growth, whether it's in your own life or it's like the actual plants that you see around you. Open your eyes, take a moment to be present in this spring season. And I think you'll find a lot of inspiration and a lot of joy and a lot of passion and creativity. I think that all just comes rushing in when we see God bringing new life back into things. It really, like, once you see it, you can't unsee it. Once you see new growth, you can't unsee the new growth on all the plants and stuff around you. It's just wonderful. So take note of that, take stock of that. But also share with me, like, what things are flourishing now from previous seasons where you've planted, but also tell me like some of the new things that you're thinking about planting and how you want to support those things. We are cultivating a wonderful, beautiful life. We are building our garden, and it's really such a wonderful, beautiful thing. So thank you for being a part of the spring series. Like I said, we've got one more Cultivated Life episode that we're going to do next week. Before you know it, we're all going to have green thumbs. Make it a good week for yourself, my fellow gardeners.